film cinema. It's like, oh, hello. I know it's not really blazer weather going forward, but I want to do maybe like a blazer rework. I've got one actually that is a little springy. It's 2 blazer sleeves. It's wrapped. Oh, wait a minute. An intro? Past Laurs, a little stinker. Oh, the blazers I would have buttoned, and if only they weren't needlessly tighter at the hips in proportion to the shoulders. Today, I'm going to show you how to upsize a blazer by adding a back vent. Let's get to it. I don't know about you, but when I buy a blazer, a lot of times when I go to button it, it's so tight in the hips and yet fits in the shoulders, even when you do this when you're conducting, when you're doing a Lydia tar, but it's tight in the hips. And I don't know if that has to do with like menswear look, like, oh, they have big shoulders and small hips. I don't know, but it's annoying. And so many upcycles have to do with like making things smaller and cinching them in and whatnot. I thought it'd be cool to do an upsizing video. So today we're going to add a back vent in a blazer to open it up, and that way you can button it if you want. And it doesn't really change much visually. It just has to do with the fit and being able to wear a blazer that maybe you wouldn't be able to otherwise, or it'd be tight, or you wouldn't be able to button it. The blazer I'm going to add the back vent on is this glove blazer from one of our previous videos. And this one's not super tight on me, but I just thought this was one I already wanted to add a vent to, so I thought I would go for it. This one has a kind of better hip shape, but we'll just use it as an example. This is one I have on the website, and I think you could use a little vent. So I would say look for a blazer that has a back seam, otherwise it'll get really complicated, but most blazers do. I guess you could do a side vent, and then there's some that have seams, kind of princess seams in the back. Go for it. Try it out. We're just going to do the back vent today. Back seam, princess seam, side seam. So again, you could experiment. You could do all of them and do like a cheerleader skirt, do a herky in it. So yeah. Well, there is another version of this where you could make it a go day instead of split, so I've experimented with that too. Maybe in a future video. Let me know if you'd like to see that. All right. Luckily, this one does have a seam on the lining, so that makes it a lot easier. You can still do it without, because usually the linings are a little looser. So you would just, we'll be ripping the stitches till about, about mid-back or so. And sorry, my brain just goes like, oh, you could do a lace-up detail. I'm like, focus. Okay, sorry. We should just have maybe you should have not a safe word, but a code word, like tangent, like future, just like future vid, just like stop. So really quick though, if the lining doesn't have that seam and you've already split the body, the fabric, whatever, the jacket, okay.
The shell.
The shell and the lining. Yeah. Okay.
At least that's what it is.
That's what it says when the tag. Yeah. I guess it is a shell. Yeah. If the lining doesn't have a seam, after we split the shell seam outside, you'll just sort of cut up until a point, just saying, it can be done. It's pretty much the same thing. All right, let me get my snippers. And I guess I'm being defensive, but I feel like I should apologize. Like, this isn't like the sexiest video, like I like to do, juicy, sexy, like impractical upcycles as a regular thing. But this one's, it's still important, because how annoying is it when a blazer is so close to fitting and it just doesn't. So here I am snipping. I'm just sort of pulling the lining from the shell again. That's correct, I guess. But and then the stitches are a little more visible, and I'm snipping right at the back seam just to kind of separate those two, and just pretty much enough to you know, just a couple inches on each side, I think should do it. I won't be, when we sew them back together, it won't be quite as invisible as this, but I think it'll be fine. So I might do it a bit more, but it's just really a few inches on each side, separated that, and now I'm going to, there might be a couple little stay stitch kind of things, but I'm going to start ripping the stitches from the bottom of the shell till about mid back, or wherever feels right for you. It's so you have room for your butt, you know. And I'll do the same on the lining, just snipping those stitches to about the same point. Yeah. I've split the lining and the shell fabric about nearly halfway up. I kind of tried it on just to make sure it was about a waist high, and the edges are folded over already, so that's easy for us to just go in. And using this as a guide, I'm like, okay, I'm going to pin it here. Actually, first, it's worth noting before, I mean, like when I get to the machine, I'm probably going to reinforce at least the shell, like right here, so it doesn't keep kind of popping, you know? So I'll just kind of do a little stitch. It's a mess here, but anyways, I'll do a little reinforcement there, and maybe in the lining too. And I'm going to be pinning this, like, I'm going to pin this all the way up till about here, and I might have to pop a stitch here and there just to kind of make sure it lines up and it doesn't do that. And I'll be removing all these little threads as I go. And I'm trying to think which direction I'll be sewing from. But I'm trying to leave like a little room so it's not flush, so the lining doesn't peek out on the other side. But I'm just gonna, and I wouldn't worry too much about the lining. I mean, you could do like a little stitch just to kind of keep that in place so it doesn't keep popping. And you could keep going if you want, but I just don't think that's gonna be a problem. But, you know, maybe do a little hand stitch there to reinforce that. And let's see, I'm gonna pop a few more here. And I'm gonna pin it up both sides. And I'm gonna do, and I'm sure there are other methods if you wanna make it completely invisible, but I think it's fine to do just like a little 3/8 of an inch. I should have that trademark. No, that's like the sewing measurement, whatever you call it, you know, industry standard, but I'm like, well, it's fine. And I'm trying to think, because I could start at the bottom. I'm trying to think if that would, either way, let's just say start at the bottom or wherever you think looks good. And just, I'm going to be stitching 3/8 of an inch from the side, and then a little, see, this is it like, yeah, it's kind of like boxing it. It's not really a box pleat, but like kind of just you're kind of boxing it out. You know what I'm saying? Basically, you're going to,
I mean, it's like a vent. You're sewing a vent.
Yeah, but what do you call it when you go, boop boop pivot? I don't know. Who cares? God, why do I make everything complicated? I need to like,
no idea.
I need to confer with some text before I start talking. I'm going to start at the bottom, 3/8 of an inch from the edge, or so, maybe whatever, quarter of an inch or something, and just as long as it's picked up on both sides. Stitch all the way up one side, and then right about here, right above the split, I'm going to pivot and just do a little box staying over, stitched over, and then pivot again just to kind of keep that in place. And then the same thing after I pin this, I'm going to stitch all the way down. And so that way it's attaching the lining to the shell and creating that vent, and it's pretty easy. And like I said, if you want to get in there with a hand stitch and make everything invisible, you go for it. But I'm lazy, so and then yeah, this other lining side isn't as nice and folded over as the other side. Let me just, okay. Well, anyway, I'm going to continue pinning, and like I said, reinforce it at the top of the shell, the top of the vent here, and then we're going to go to the sewing machine. Just wanted to show you a close-up before I start sewing. This is what it looks like on the inside. So I've just pinned it, and from the outside it looks like this, but we'll be sewing it from the inside. So I don't know if you can see this because it's monochromatic. It's not perfect, but works for me. Now I'm going to iron it, even though it looks pretty smooth, but I'll iron it and then try it on. Does this look like anything?
No.
I mean, I'm like, here,
I know, 'cause it's
look at it. It's not the flashiest one, but oh, okay. It's like every reaction I ever do. An outro. I know this project isn't as wild and sexy as others, but it will save you a fortune in blazer stress, and that will add years to your life. It's a metaphor salad. Well, I think this is one for the books. Now go on, you good thing. That little scamp. Okay. Like people that watch, like commenting, like, you put the pins in the wrong direction. I know, I'm an idiot. So, not perfection. Wait, oh, sorry. I feel like I'm gonna like lose my, like, I'm just gonna keep like undoing all this. Oh, this time we're actually gonna do it to the neck. I want it completely split.
But the good news is it does fit around your
It does fit around everything now because it's a big weird cape. Yeah, it's engagement.
Yeah.
Bullying is engagement. I already said that, but different. Okay, today. And you can just keep complimenting me and
Yeah.
like, get out of here.
Perfect.
Yeah. Let me do a spin.